Hey New Wavers, on today's show we're going to talk about an underground fashion and music movement that burst onto the scene in the UK in the 1970s and blitzed its way through the 1980s. I'm New Wave Joe, and this is my show. In the mid to late 1970s, the United Kingdom was riddled with significant social and political unrest. School leavers couldn't find jobs, Thatcherism was at full throttle, and the Western world had entered a Cold War with the Eastern world. The New Romantic movement, an underground subculture fashion movement, stemmed out of the UK club scene in reaction to what some considered the stale punk movement.
When I moved to London, I was working with Generation X, doing sort of graphics and stuff with Billy Idol. And I just got really disillusioned by the whole thing to do with punk rock and the way that it became like a uniform. Although at the beginning it was great, but then if you weren't wearing the latest Vivienne Westwood collection and you changed your image or whatever and your hair wasn't spiked out and you were going to concert, you know, they'd look at you and think, God, what's this? I mean, although that happens to me all the time.
I've always said if I can go back to a period where music, fashion, and attitude was all the rage, I'd jump at the chance to go back to the New Romantic movement, if only for a day. Dressing like a pirate and dancing to David Bowie's Ashes to Ashes seems like a pretty cool way to spend the night to me. The 1979 New Romantic movement was founded by Steve Strange and Rusty Egan. Strange was no stranger to the UK music scene. Early in his career, he arranged gigs in his hometown of Newbridge, Wales, for bands like the Sex Pistols and the Stranglers. Joined Visage, a British pop rock band, in 1978, and appeared in David Bowie's Ashes to Ashes music video. At the time, Egan was also making a name for himself in the UK music scene. He was the drummer for the British new wave band Blitz Kids, collaborated with bands like Visage, and played drums on a remixed version of Phil Lynot's song Yellow Pearl, which became the theme song for Top of the Pops, a British television program. Egan's role, however, was even more pivotal once he started DJing, because he introduced super important up-and-coming bands and musical artists to the scene, such as Kraftwerk, Brian Eno, and Ultravox. Thus single-handedly creating the soundtrack of the New Romantic movement. While Strange and Egan are credited with being founders of the movement actually evolved out of 3 cities in the UK. In London, Strange and Egan hosted David Bowie and Roxy music theme nights at Billy's, a nightclub located on Dean Street. As the popularity of the event expanded, Strange and Egan relocated the event to a larger venue known as the Blitz, a wine bar on Great Queen Street in Covent Garden, where they were already running a popular yet unnamed Tuesday night dance party. Once they moved, they merged the parties together, and the New Romantics was born. In Birmingham, a city located about 100 miles northeast of London, elements of the New Romantic movement cropped up at the Hurst Street clothing shop, where fashion designers James Kahn and Patti Bell combined elaborate theoretical designs, futuristic visual elements, and Egyptian, African, and Far Eastern art into a clothing style that quickly came to define aspects of the movement's look. Within a few years, a small New Romantic scene featuring Kahn, Bell, Boy George, and Patrick Lilly turned out at clubs and pubs around the city. Finally, in Leeds, a city located in West Yorkshire, a new romantic scene emerged at clubs like the Warehouse and Primos. The scene's most ardent supporter was synth-pop duo Soft Cell, whose lead vocalist Mark Almond DJ'd and worked in the cloakroom at the Warehouse. Before we dive further into the new romantic scene, I want to talk for a moment about the Blitz Kids, a precursor to the romantic movement.
Blitz is about young people who want to be different and want to be surrounded by other people who are also different.
The Blitz Kids were a group of British art school students who frequented Strange and Egan's Tuesday club night at the Blitz, from which they adopted their name. The Blitz was situated between two art colleges, St. Martin's School and Central School, and was a popular destination or hangout for art school outcasts, teenage rebels, and fed-up punks in search of a fun night out. The term New Romantic was coined by Richard James Burgess. Burgess, a synth-pop pioneer, also coined the term electronic dance music, or EDM, created the SD-SV drum synthesizer, and produced records for Spandau Ballet, Adam Ant, New Edition, and Kim Wilde. Other key elements that define the movement include shifting gender norms, rapid technological change, and the amplification of global mass media, marked by the arrival of MTV in 1981. While the New Romantic movement was more of a fashion movement than a music one, this hybrid music genre combined electronic synth sounds with danceable pop. Many of the bands used synthesizers to create rock and pop harmonies, while others combined elements of Motown, reggae, and African-influenced rhythms. Some notable New Romantic bands include Visage, Spandau Ballet, and Flock of Seagulls. Ultravox was identified by the press as a New Romantics band, but did not exhibit the same visual styles of the movement. Additionally, Japan and Adam and the Ants were also labeled New Romantic artists, but pushed back against this, claiming they were not part of the original scene. Over the course of the next few years, the movement's popularity started to wane. Despite the popularity of several notable New Romantic-esque style bands like Duran Duran and Culture Club. These bands had quickly become staples of MTV, and more or less spearheaded the second British invasion. If you want to learn more about the second British invasion, check back to the channel in a few months because I'm going to do a video on that. Attempts to revive the movement in the 1990s were short-lived and not very successful. In retrospect, the New Romantic movement may have only lasted 5 or 6 years, but it marked an important transition in the underground music and fashion movement in the UK and around the world. The New Romantics movement influenced an entire decade of fashion and music in the 1980s. It also adored androgynous cross-dressing and unisexual fashion, was part of a broader reimagining of feminism and gender equality, and more so, it dared young people to think, dress, and act differently, and added a bit of glamour to what was considered a pretty stale punk rock movement at the time. Before we go, please like this video and subscribe to the channel, and tell me in the comments below what is your favorite New Romantic movement band.